We are live. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, John, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I have known Thomas since high school, but our lives have changed a whole lot and gone through quite a bit of journeying.
Yeah, so that was 15 years ago that we first wove our lives.
Well, I would love to let you introduce yourself and uh, the things that you work on and breathe into this life. And I'm going to read a poem after to kind of spur and catalyze the conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you again for having me. It's good to be here with you. My name's Thomas Doochin. I live on 22 acres of rural farmland here in the Appalachian Mountains. Before I landed here, I ran and helped found a social impact startup called DayMaker. I sold that when I was 27, kind of confused by what I saw in the world and longing for simplicity on land. I got to this land, tried to keep my life really small and simple without much risk. And I realized that also was not the path that I came to this earth to live. And so I'm now in this balance of living a place-based life with my wife, my son, my parents moved out to the land with us, while also trying to live my Dharma in the world. And that Dharma in the world is an organization called Heart of Men. And it's a place where guys who are chasing the real stuff of life come together to do better than what we were given. And so we run a host of programs from long form 10-month containers that are a mix of online and in-person on our land here. And then we also run shorter 6 and 8 week online programs. And it's a little bit of a mix of leadership development meets creative incubator meets soul initiation. And so we're doing some of the deep healing work, but it's actually in service to what we're creating in this life. And that's something that I really believe, that it's through what we create that we come to know who we really are. Um, and so that ethos runs strong through Heart of Men. And that brings me to this moment in time with you.
Yeah, thank you. I see men gathering and being driven, motivated, inspired into these new forms of relating out of a mix of like excitement and inspiration about what's possible, but then also a lot of pain and desperation and grief. And so I wrote this letter poem kind of
Mm,
to you, and
mm,
it's like directly towards you, but it's a
mm,
bit towards, God, the universe as well.
mm,
And so it starts like this. My brother, I write to you today because I am tired and weary. I am afraid that no one will go deep enough with me to the places I want and need to go.
mm,
Do you ever feel this? Like a traumatized dog, having become afraid of life, grown accustomed to feasting on appearances, while the
mm,
insides, the carcasses of our hearts and spirits, our bodies rot away into the street where we have abandoned them. Brother, how have we become so sick? I imagine I am not the only one that feels this way. What
mm,
ails us as men, and what do we have to do to become well? I hear I should put my head down, get a good job, be good, buy a house, buy a wife, buy a car, buy a family, buy my health. Push through while pushing down. This is what makes a man win. But what do we do when this fails and our souls light on fire and our bodies start to reject our behaviors? When the fan is starting to knock flames into our world? Brother, I'm afraid that we have an addiction that we cannot cure. I'm afraid that we are dying trees severed from our earthly roots. and that our addictions will drive us into our extinction. How do we grow
mm,
up then when our roots are inflamed and tethered? How deep does this pain go? And is it healable at all? And
mm.
even if I heal, then what? What are we to do with this world we are leaving behind to the next generation? What type of elders will we become? So many of our elders did not seem to solve this riddle, and they are transitioning now out of this realm. There is no point, it seems, to blaming them. I have no answers to the riddle either. And this is why I write you today. Because, brother, getting high no longer dulls the pain. It feels like we are standing together naked at the bottom of a massive waterfall, our feet slipping and sliding while the water crushes down on our necks. And I am knocked off of my feet, and I am painfully reminded of my helplessness in the moving river. And it is there that I am put right, recognizing my place in the natural order. But I am no savior. The river is not mine to fix. My legs are barely able to sustain my weak body in the current. My battle cry is stuck in my throat, and even if I could get it out, wouldn't passerbys only hear the rushing water? And I am sad for it. In a dream, I watch money burn up in a forest fire. Millions, billions, trillions of dollars. I watch, amazed at the many different forms a tree can burn, all ash now. These things that we clench so tightly in our fists matter until they don't, until the roosters stop waking us up, until the birds become asthmatic, choking on the sky, until our cerebrospinal fluid becomes supersaturated with plastics and the lights turn off, the power runs out, and the guns come out. What
Mm.
is this disease that I sense but has no name, my brother? And what does it have to do with men? Is there a cure at all? Are we not terminal? Because I have been in the hospitals and I know what a stage 4 terminal illness looks like. And there is that moment where even the most resistant egos in the room admit that they can do nothing but invite in death.
Hmm.
And I ask you this, brother, because I heard you care and know about the hearts of men, that you may know something that might help men heal. I have heard there are groups of men, entire communities even, of men who speak of these things. I have sat amongst them at times, but I'm weary and distrustful when I see packs of hungry, lost wolves. And I am afraid that singing around a campfire and shouting or raging away into the dark night will not save my soul. Brother, my ears are sensitive, and I do not want to spend the rest of my days screaming into an empty sky. Being a serious person, I struggle to see the benefits when our global present and grim future strikes hotter than lightning into my soul's vision. It is muddied there and clouded. But I do not want to pretend. I am afraid ultimately that I am no man at all. I'm afraid that I am a boy, a toddler, walking around with barely earned scruff. I do not want
Mm.
to wear the imposter cloak of superiority, for I am not as serious as I claim. I want to I don't want to lose myself floating out into the sea of grandiosity where I claim I want to solve problems I do not have solutions for. I do not want to be fake. I do not want to play a spiritual game in my head. Someone even told me recently that the heart, this heart inside of this man, is the only organ in the human body that does not get cancer.
Hmm.
Is that true, brother? How else would you be in business, my friend? Where do we go from here? How do we have a vulnerable and true conversation? Is it possible to become a man in today's world with a heart that is truly cancer free?
Hmm. Thank you for that invocation and some tears in my eyes. Thank you for the realness. Thank you for where it comes from in you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we could probably sit in silence for an hour after those words, and that would be a worthy act to honor where those words come from. And I'm also aware that we're on a podcast, and I guess what people do on podcasts is they talk. So
We
maybe
try
talk in a way.
We try to answer rhetorical questions.
Maybe talk in a way that honors those riverbanks you just set and that canoe you just put in the water for us. Yeah. Here's where I'll start, John. I've had a lot of lifetimes. I don't remember really any of them consciously. And I have to believe that this is the hardest it has ever been to be a human on this earth. That is the hardest it has ever been to be a human on this earth. And we could spend a lot of time talking about why. What I want to start with right now is that perhaps for the first time ever, there is no given meaning for why we're here and what it means to be alive and what we are to do. And it doesn't mean that those before us had it all figured out with their origin stories and their mythologies and their views of creation, but there was an orienting force. And for 99.999% of human history, when you woke up in the morning, you knew what you had to do to keep life going. You knew what the people before you had done to keep life going, and you took your seat in the grand tapestry of creation. And whether it was perfect the way you were living, the way you were harvesting, the way you were tending agriculture or not, you had your place and you were keeping life moving. And so we've been birthed maybe as the second or third generation, fourth generation, where that meaning, that void is now present. For a long time, there was just the meaning that came from relationship with earth. And then we had religion. And now in the void of religion, we're looking around. It's like, what the fuck am I here for? What is this life about? We're the first generation, you and I, and we were fortunate to just have mixed the intensity of this wave, but that are having to deal with the digital world and the shimmer. And so we have no true north that's been given to us by our culture. And we're facing some of the biggest waves the sea has ever put out. And we're expecting ourselves to be able to swim. And so when I listen to your invocation and when I tune into, I just have the great privilege of, like, in any moment in time, being deeply in touch with 30 or 40 men in their process through the work we're doing. And all the men who are reaching out about wanting to get involved in the work. And people are drowning right now. People are drowning. And it's not just the people who are like, man, I'm addicted to drugs, or I'm still living with my parents, or I can't find work. Like, yeah, those people have been drowning to some extent. It's also my peers from university, people that I respect who have hella good jobs, hella awesome wives, hella awesome lives. And they're just like, what the fuck? And they might have a moment of clarity within a week or a month span. And the rest of the time is like, they're reaching out for some form of a lifesaver. And they're like, what am I doing? What is this energy that's moving through me? And so I just want to start there without saying anything else, that I think it's the hardest time there's ever been on earth to be a human.
It's you wouldn't be able to tell and guess by the way that so much of what we intake or see on any kind of news media, any kind of social media platform, any kind of so many kinds of daily interactions with other people. It's all hidden. It's all hidden away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've jammed a little bit with, like, Jungian psychology. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you like just play with myth in that lens, right? The sicker we actually feel inside, the more the subconscious is going to try to tell a story of otherwise. And so in some ways you could see the better it looks on social media, is actually a signpost to the deeper the disease internally, because there's some type of balance that's trying to go on. There's some type of meaning making trying to happen. And so, when you look at like a world of Instagram or whatever it may be, and then you reckon with these statistics, which I know and Eric Godsey has turned me on to these, but it's what, 188% increase in teen suicide since 2010. 188% increase for girls, right? I think it's like 160% for boys. Self-harm emergency room visits have almost doubled in that same time period. Anxiety, depression, ADHD, all of these diagnoses are also ranging from 100 to 200% increase. And so, like, yeah, we can look at what's happening when you scroll down an Instagram feed, and then we can take a more holistic view to those who don't have enough sovereignty yet formed to be able to ride the wave. And I don't think you and I are very well equipped to ride the waves that are happening right now, but I can guarantee you a 14-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy don't have what they need yet. Their soul hasn't landed enough to be able to ride the wave. So just look at the way the disease is manifesting, right? It's something like 4 in 5 adult men report being lonely. I mean, like, you can just look at the downstream effects of what's going on that are like these tendrils coming out of what actually it's like to scroll down an Instagram feed, and recognize like, whoa, the sickness is here. And whether people know it or not, the byproduct of that sickness is quite evident if you're willing to open your eyes.
Yeah. It is a very unique form of sickness. Like I went through a standard medical school training. That these types of sickness are not spoken of. And partially it feels like because we don't have vernacular, we don't have words for it, there's an invisibility to emotional, mental, and spiritual sickness that you can't fix with a scalpel or a drug.
Yeah. I want to say that, so yeah, we talk about the sickness, and we can grapple with the times that we're in, who we came to be in those times, the doctor, the one like whose soul knows they're supposed to be a medicine for the time, but the only structure given to be a medicine for the time is to go through 8 years of training, to have your soul taken out of you, and then to wear a coat and a stethoscope and go administer patients, right? But the longing of the soul was to come be a minister of medicine, to come be a healer at the time. For most doctors, I would presume, And so yeah, yes to the times we're in, and the devastation and the despair and the confusion and the desperation. And also, John, like, I believe every single one of our souls chose to come to earth at this time to have this experience, right? To be both the dying and the doula to the future, as Doe Perot says in her album Living Through Collapse, to be the dying and the doula. And do you know how much fortitude it takes as a soul to come and be like, yeah, let the sickness kill what needs to die in me, and also let me birth the new world that we're moving towards. And that's what we all chose in coming here right now. And so I also, from like a mythological perspective, I get this feeling, and some of my elders have told me this, that like the queue to get down to earth grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. Like every soul in the universe, which I can't even fathom what that's like up there, down there, everywhere, but every soul wants to be on earth, especially right now, because of what's at stake. Because in some ways, earth is this great cosmological experiment, and we're the ones living it out. And so you look at the 8 billion of us on this earth, which is a lot of people, but I've been told that that's like a percent of the amount of people that wanted to be incarnate on this earth right now. And so when you take that lens, it's like, well, fuck, I wanted to be here for this. Well, I have something to receive from this. I have something to give to this. And in that lens, I don't think through the personal, the psychological, the somatic, I can make sense of being here right now. It's just too much, right? It's too much. But through the lens of that frame, or you could say mythology, I can orient to where we are in time and space and what my role is inside of time and space. Of like the disease I feel, the anxiety I feel, the neuroses that I hold, like man, I'm beating a dead horse trying to fix those, trying to change those. Like they're just symptoms of the time. But can I move in a way that I'm able to hold all of those compassionately, but also fiercely, and live the thing I came to this earth to give? Can I hold all of those fiercely and compassionately, but also live the thing that I came to this earth to give? Because I'm a student and a teacher of these times, and you're a student and a teacher of these times, or we wouldn't be here. And that to me is where we flip from a disempowered victim, helpless man drowning in the ocean to the recognition that we can indeed build the raft, steer the raft, and take us to where we need to go. And so as I was listening to your poem, your invocation, that beauty, what was coming up for me was, in the absence of having meaning made for us, we have this great task of deriving meaning from within. In the absence of meaning being made for us, we have this great task of deriving meaning from within. And so as you spoke of, we might start with, okay, university, and then maybe post university, and then maybe a doctorate, and then it's the car and the house and the wife and the kids and the 401k, whatever meaning making we have. But very quickly I'm seeing in our generation, John, the facade falls. And very quickly it's like, oh, that meaning, maybe it lasted for a decade, maybe for a couple years, but it's not doing it for me. I'm still waking up and I feel like I'm dying from the inside out. And to me, that's the call of the soul saying, find the reason that you're on this earth, which you will only find inside of yourself, and begin living it. And so we have this great task, especially as men, because of the way that the world is set up. Men are in positions of leadership, especially as men, to find that anchor for why we were sent here, why our ancestors chose us, why we chose to be here, and to live from that place. And it's fucking hard. And this is my dance every day. And I feel like a skilled motherfucker being on earth right now. Like I feel like a martial artist for collapse times, you know? And still every day I have to be like, what am I doing? Like, you know, I look to my left and my right, and I'm like, what? It's not, whoa, it's actually not that. It's not that. It's not that. Here's the golden thread of my life. And I got to do that every single morning, or I'll get to the end of my day and be like, what did I even do today? You know, like what was my life about? And what a great responsibility to have to do that, right? Like the burden, the weight of having to choose that every day, right? And also, if you trust that you came here for your own evolution and you're becoming, what an enormous gift that you have to have that level of precision, fortitude, creative energy, that every day you're shaping and being shaped by the world that we live in. And so like that kind of turns me on, you know, that frame of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I use this a lot in our Heart of Men spaces of like being a warrior in the miasma. You have to be a warrior in the miasma. And otherwise it's just going to eat you alive. And like what a call then into that warriorship on behalf of life, right? A warriorship on behalf of this new world that you speak of in this podcast. And so there's a lot of meaning in that for me, next to the grief. Grief's like a very frequent companion in my life. I would not call myself an optimist. I wouldn't even say I'm positively inclined at this point. I feel pretty sober to the way things are. But in that sobriety, there's also the choice of like, okay, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to drink myself to death? Like, do I want to let my soul wither away? Or can I behold this grief and say like, let me create something of my heart. Let me create something of this only organ in my body, if this is true, that can actually be cancer-free, that is indefinitely cancer-free. And that's the game that I'm choosing to play. And I'm not here to espouse that game to other people. That's just a meaning that I've made. It's the only thing when I'm in the depths of the grief that I can access, when I'm in the depths of the despair, when I let myself feel what's happening to the children in the Holy Land, when I let myself feel what's happening to the old growth forests that remain, when I let myself feel what's happening to the salamanders, when I let myself feel how many children in this country don't have what they need physically, emotionally, spiritually, the meaning that I make out of that is to take brave action on behalf of a better world. That's my survival strategy, for better or worse. And that's what allows me to wake up and show up another day of calling the men forward to become something better than what they were given. And that's become the great call of my life, the great cry of my life. Yeah.
I had this image of you as an Appalachian Jedi. In the warriorship and in the magic of that and the
Yeah.
challenge and the truly cosmic intergalactic situation that is Star Wars that we
Thank you.
seem to be here on.
Uh,
And so where does how does the heart lead that? How do we connect with that place? 'Cause the mind seems to get totally fried in its attempt to understand and make sense of any of this, and its attempt to fix things and do whatnot. How do we shift into the heart place? That's hard. That's not easy for men.
yeah. Yeah. So I'll give you an answer that maybe you don't want, and then I'll maybe give you an answer that you want. The answer
Yeah.
that maybe you don't want is that I think there are an infinite number of pathways back to the heart. And that part of what we're doing as men right now is trailblazing those pathways. And so it starts with the recognition of like, I can't access this creative source of my life. And part of our work is to bushwhack through the overgrowth, the invasives to find our way back. And when we do that on behalf of all of life, right? We're contributing to the morphic field that makes that possible for our sons, for our grandsons, for our brothers, right? Because we've bushwhacked our way back to the heart. So I think there's an infinite number of ways back to the heart, and that it's our task to find our way there, which again speaks to there isn't the model. There isn't the model. So not very helpful, right? Like me saying, good luck, find your way. If I come down a level, right, from metaphor, there's a couple things that come up for me as we talk about coming back to the heart. And um, the first is our innate sensitivity that's present even if we cannot access it. That was very likely shut down and armored at a very young age as boys, even as girls in our culture, right? That came in as a really sensitive, porous soul, looked around and was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not the birthright that I was promised in coming to earth, right? Like, where are the trees? Where's the clean water? Where's the songs? Where's the elder? Where's the cultural initiations? Where's the food being tended? And we look around at suburban Nashville, Tennessee, and our little souls like, hide, hide, hide. This is not it, right? So we have this armor, but the sensitivity is still there. And we just went camping, John, for the first time with our son, which was like, yeah, it was like a really special time to take him camping. And we were in Nantahala National Forest, which is just a couple hours west. And we were out at Jackrabbit Campground, which is on the Chattooga Lake. And there's this woman camping across from us. And we have our dogs, and we have these two really big dogs. And she's got these two tiny dogs. And they were just barking nonstop at everything. And the first couple of days, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it's quiet and there's kids playing and it's so beautiful. And these small little dogs are just like barking and barking and barking and barking. And there's a lot of judgment coming up. And I've come to know that when that much judgment is coming up for me, there's normally some pathway back into that sensitivity that's blocked. And so I'm feeling that pathway. And so I went on a walk one morning and I was like watching this woman move about her tent. And it dawned on me that she was homeless. And I don't know this for a fact, but just looking at the fullness of her car and what was around her campground, I was like, oh, whoa, she's homeless. And like, this is her home right now. And I could start crying right now in that regard of like letting myself actually reckon. And we were there on Mother's Day. And so like, all the moms in the campground, like you can see all the kids celebrating the moms, and it's my wife's first Mother's Day and we're with our dear friends and celebrating Mother's Day with them. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, whoa, I wonder like what longings to be a mom live in you that were unrequited. Like I wonder what happened that like led you at 70 plus years old to be homeless, right? But like you so care for these two dogs, even though you don't know how to care for them. Like you're so like they're your children. And I was just washed over with this grief of this woman's life, right? Of like what it must have been like to be her living in this world. And with that comes inordinate compassion and softness. And so I say all of that because there is a pathway back to the heart, which is like, When we feel hardness, there's normally sensitivity being protected. When we feel hardness, there's normally something sensitive being protected. And for me in that moment, the judgment was actually just masking that there was a lot of tenderness towards this woman, right? Um, that's one pathway back to the heart that I know. There's a second, but I kind of want to pause to see if I just shared a lot. So I want to pause to see if you want to share anything in there before I speak to the second.
Continue.
Okay. The second different flavor, equally important, is desire. And so you live in a world where we are so confused around desire. And when we talk about like, what do you want? Most men are like immediately with that question are going to tell you about a sexual fantasy, or they probably won't tell you about a sexual fantasy because they're embarrassed by it. But what their mind actually goes to is like, there's this woman at the grocery store and this is what I want to do, right? It gets very mental. Desire, the etymology of desire is Latin desidere, which actually means from the stars, right? So desire actually means from the stars. So if we want to talk about our purpose, our North Star, our destiny, our divinity, right? And we believe that comes in some form from a combination of maybe heaven and earth. The pathway to following that might be desire, the thing from the stars. And so something that I've been working with a lot in my own life and something that I've been holding a frequency for in our Heart of Men spaces is, brother, what do you really want? And you're going to meet a first layer of that, but you come back to it. What do you really want? What do you really want? And we find that if we continue to work that, which you don't get it, it's like peeling back an onion. You're not going to get it on the first couple layers, that at some point we speak something and we feel it in our whole body. And we're like, shit, that's the thing that I really want. It often is maybe challenging or surprising to our personality structure. It's something that like we learned a long time ago we can't have, or is bad, or it's not a good guy thing to want that. We begin to allow ourselves to run that energy. And I find that just quite naturally we inhabit the heart. Because desire is moving through the compass of our lives. And to me, our heart is the compass of our lives. And so another really fun way to come back out of the head, to come back out of the preordained structures of what it means to be a man with the 401k and the great car and the lake house, whatever it is, the story you've been told, or being the great guy who gives up success to work for the nonprofit in a poor part of town, whatever the story is, when we can actually connect with what is it that I really, really want? What is it that I really want? That there's a way that brings us back into the heart and drops some of the facade of this house we've built around ourselves of who we need to be and why. Yeah. And this is something that I would speak to is the burden of maintaining a consistent personality structure, right? The need for a coherence of like, well, if I said this yesterday, that I should do this today because this means XYZ for tomorrow. And I think we're living our whole lives in that of like, well, how do I know myself to be? Where do I think that I'm going? And I need to make decisions consistent in that lens. And I forgot who it was. It was like William Blake or William Stafford or maybe like John Muir, some poet that I was reading recently. And he's like, the greatest gift you can give me as my friend is for the permission for me to change my truth, to change my mind. Right. And I really resonate with people. And Eric Godsey is like this. I know you know Eric. I'm in one of his classes right now. Like the dude's kind of unhinged. And he'll like give us a piece of counsel on one week and then give us an opposite piece of counsel on the next week, but they're both coming from truth, right? And I see in that like permission to not need to hold it together so well. A permission to not need to hold it together so well. So if we talk about something like desire and we actually get in touch with desire, the deepest desires we probably have are likely going to feel challenging to our life because they've been repressed for a reason, right? And so when we do the work to find those desires, at first it's going to be like, how the fuck can I be an emergency room doctor in New York City and also want this? But the reality is, if we don't hold ourselves so firm to needing to be consistent in our presentation, there's actually space for all of it. And I'll tell like a story to bring it through the lens of me. When I moved here, John, so I built this company and we sold it, not for a ton of money, but enough that I didn't need to work for a couple of years, right? And I moved to this land and I was so confused by what we were doing. And it was COVID and cancel culture was really strong. And I was like, I'm just going to farm. Like, okay, I got this great education. I have a crazy intellect, but like, I'm just going to farm and I'm going to like learn how to do everything on the land. And we're just going to have our little life here. and it's going to be good and well. And actually, like, I don't want to really deal with money. Like, money feels evil, money feels wrong. I just see power at this point as bad. I think I've heard people when I've been in a position of power, I look at all the men around me, they're hurting people. So like, let's just create our little bubble here and it's going to be good. And I'll meet my wife and we'll have our kids and everything will be just right. And we have some friends around us. And then in the past couple of years, like Heart of Men's begun to blossom, and it's really challenged me, right? Because at first I was like, no, it's donation based, and no, guys, I'm not anything special. It's not about me in the space. It's you guys that are special. And there was a real abdication of my responsibility. And so as Heart of Men has grown and asked for me to step into the next iterations of what it needs, because I see it as an organism, like a living organism, right? This business entity, I've had to actually confront that I love being in positions of power. I actually love having money. I want our family to not have excess, but to have nice things, to be able to, as long as airplanes are around, to be able to go to Europe in the summertime for a couple weeks and spend time with our friends there. Like, I actually want those things. And so I've been in a process really this spring, as Heart of Men has kind of entered a new phase of needing to reclaim that stuff that I had really shut down. And it was really challenging for me. I like asked, like, what do I really want? And as I worked this one thread, the thing that came is I want to spend next summer in Spain with our dear friend Rochelle Saliga, and I want to spend time in Slovenia next summer. And I want to like not be working, and I want to have 6 weeks where we can eat good food and stay in nice bed and breakfasts. And when that hit, I was like, what? Well, no way. I would need $10,000 for that. I can't justify $10,000 in the times that we're living in. Like, it really hit this like good guy, Thomas, who lives a simple life, who doesn't engage in anything indulgent, but it's not actually truthful. So when I pretend to inhabit that story, I'm actually, I think, doing more harm than claiming the part of me that's like, I want some money to play with. And I actually love being in positions of power and leadership. And when I claim that, it's actually above board to be worked with. And if it doesn't get claimed and I pretend that I'm just going to be a simple farmer when I have this crazy gift of leadership, it's going to come out in some really gross sideways ways because the energy is going to find a way to run. So yeah, I guess the first question was like, how do we move towards, right? What's in the way and how do we move towards it? And I guess there's like a willingness for some bravery, a willingness to mess it up, a willingness to get wrong, a willingness, for me to go to my wife and be like, hey, baby, I know you married this man who like you kind of thought was a hippie in the woods, but like, I want to fucking build a business that grows and serves people and pays other people and puts together these epic gatherings. Like, I want to do the thing. Like, I know that's not exactly what I told you. And she looks at me and she's like, oh, what a relief, baby. Like, I want that too, you know? And there has to be a willingness to confront those castles that we built around ourselves.
They're not in conflict with the heart. Maybe that's a myth, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't be heart centered. That's not part of the heart.
Yeah.
As you were saying that, I mean, yeah, I was just tracking the story of myself when I was, when we met each other, that would have been in high school. And by that time I was already gung ho. By the time I was 13 or 14, I was like, I want to become a surgeon and I want to like run ship. It's like, that's an absurd thing for a 14-year-old to want or even think that they want. I don't know that, but that's what I was doing. And, by the time I transitioned into college, it was more of that too. It got even bigger. It's, okay, cool. Well, I'm less interested in sports. I want to become a neurosurgeon. That's the hardest thing I could possibly do. And of course there's within that dharma, within that job that I didn't do, is both an ego and then a heart base. Felt like neurosurgeons, by and large, they serve and do incredible things. But I got to know a lot of them over the years, and as much as some of them are very heart-based people, and they care. They love being able to, take a tumor out of a child's head. Like that's amazing. But much of the surgeon mentality and personality is that, yeah, I'm doing it because I really like how hard it is. And I really enjoyed actually the technicality of surgery.
Yeah.
And I want
Yeah.
little to do with the other stuff that's like besides just this kind of really difficult challenge.
Yeah.
And over the over the years that, that grew in me, but then it shifted partially in feeling that soul calling, feeling the times that we're in, that
Yeah.
my path is not there. It's not going to be in a
Yeah.
hospital. It's not going to be in a clinic like that. But that doesn't go away, that drive and that
Yeah.
desire that you're talking about. And
Yeah.
I want to go straight up to that top.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, thank you. That's a potent share. It evokes a lot. The first is like, I feel that you're hitting it on the head. Why are we repressing our desire for greatness? Why have we been like, I can't be great. Like I can't go for greatness. That's harmful. That's not safe. I'm not trustworthy. Whatever the story is, it's like we're repressing our desire for greatness. And if that is like a burning passion inside of us, we will either explore it and learn or we will die, right? Like the fire will stay internal and it will collapse on itself. And so, yeah, I totally get that there was a story for you. Like I could see you, I think you were at Hopkins, right? When you were doing the psychedelic, the psilocybin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can just see you in these rooms and it's like soft and tender and you're just like guiding people and they're showing you the great mysteries of the world. And you're like, this is meaningful. And I guess this is good boy John. And something in you's like, what the fuck? I'm ready to roar, you know? And I like trust that impulse, right? So the first thing I'll say is like, why not go be the best and be great at whatever you choose for your craft to be? Like, be great at your craft. It's the thing your soul came here to hone. So be fucking great at it, right? The second thing that comes up is that we live in a time without the traditional gatekeepers, right? And so for a long time, if you think about guilds, like you would come up and you'd be an apprentice and then like you would work your way to mastery, but it would be those above you that would kind of grant you the keys to the castle. Like you're ready now, to forge the sword, or you're ready now to be a doctor. You're ready now to be a shaman, right? Like if you think about like what Martin Pechtel went through as he's just telling about his becoming of a shaman, like there's gatekeepers, right? And the seen and the unseen. There aren't many gatekeepers now in the scene world. And some of these intact medicine traditions, like you're a part of, do still have some gatekeepers, and that's a blessing. For most of us, there are not gatekeepers when we're working in the realm of soul. And so what that means is nobody looks and says, John Clifton, you are now ready to be a psycho-spiritual doctor, right? And maybe within the Shipibo people, you actually will get some of that, and that's a huge blessing that you have. But we're having to discern that readiness and integrity in our own being. And that's another really, really big ask. But here's what I want to say, because I think you could listen to what we're saying and be like, this is why men are so harmful. Like, oh, go be great. Just go try to administer psycho-spiritual doctoring to like whatever desperate Westerner finds their way down to the Amazon. Like, this is bad, right? But what I see, John, is that the soul is only fulfilled if we're in our expression of our craft and integrity. And so if I choose, the brother next to me chooses to do something that's actually out of alignment with what he came to give, and like, let's say he's chasing power and the desire becomes unsatiable, the feedback is going to come like that from the universe. The feedback is going to come like that from the universe, whether it's external or whether it's a really deep internal lack of happiness. And so like we could look at Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and yeah, like the man children running our tech companies and be like, well, that's what power does. And I'm like, yo, those people's souls are like screaming out from the hospice unit. Like you don't want to be those people. And so like, yeah, you can abuse power. You could be out of integrity with that quest for greatness, but like, you're not going to be fulfilled. You, John Clift, are going to be fulfilled. Your soul is going to be like satiated and bone deep satisfied when you find your authentic expression of greatness in the craft that you came here to hone. No bigger, no lesser, right? And I think the only way we find that is through playing. Like we have to be inside the arena, pushing against the wall, getting feedback, getting hurt, falling down, hurting somebody else, repairing. That's how we actually find that sweet spot of like not too much, not too little, just the right amount. But man, if we repress that call and that desire to be fucking great, we never have the opportunity to explore the upper edge of that limit. And then we end up in a gift that's collapsed and way less than it's supposed to be. I have no idea what your journey down there in that apprenticeship with that medicine and those people are going to be, right? It could be in 2 years that like you are a full minister of that medicine and you feel in total integrity and you have the blessing of the people to be like, and your life becomes about holding those IS spaces, right? That could be. You could get down there and you could go through some fucking crazy initiation where you realize you actually do not want to do anything with plant medicine and you feel some calling to come back stateside and create something totally different. You could go down there and hear the call that actually you're supposed to go back to the fucking emergency room against everything you thought that you were supposed to do, right? I don't know what it's going to be, but the only way you're going to know is by saying yes to that call that maybe feels to challenge your identity, that maybe triggers these ideas that you're going to be a bad, harmful guy. And so I'm using you as an example because I want to say thank you and congratulations for like choosing to move towards it without knowing what it means, right? Like just saying like, this is the call of my soul. I have to chase this desire to be great. And then life's going to be the perfect teacher. And through your humility, you're going to see like, oh, this is the right shape. I am supposed to be holding this medicine as the lineage goes from just indigenous people into the Western world. Or you're going to find something totally different within that. But you're only going to know because you're choosing to go down there and do that. And if you sat in your bedroom and you journaled about it for 2 years and you saw your therapist and you talked about it with your coach, but you never took action, you're never going to fucking learn. And it's going to be like, well, if I do this, and this, by 2029, yeah, I'm going to be holding ayahuasca circles. You have no fucking idea until you take action. And so that's what you're doing. And that's kind of like my, almost what I would say, even implore people to do is like take action towards that which you think you really want. And then just see what comes back and do it with grace and ask for forgiveness when you mess up and be skillful. But we only are going to learn through action. And that's kind of becoming a little bit of the ethos of Heart of Men. We started very much as like a healing space, and that was incredible. But as I came to see, I was like, wait, we could heal the rest of our lives. There's an endless amount of shadow integration we could do. There's an infinite amount of childhood healing we could do because there were thousands of ruptures, tens of thousands of ruptures when we were kids, right? Some more severe than others. Like there's a certain level of healing that has to happen for us to actually have some clarity of who we are and why we're here. And then we have to start taking action. And it's through the action that we learn who we really are, why we're really here, and what is ours to do. And we don't get that on our therapist's couch. We don't get that journaling in our bedroom. We get that through taking action that scares us. And so Heart of Men is kind of becoming the space. And it's just evolved into this where we're like taking brave action together and letting the universe and letting life be the mirror and the teacher.
Like I wrote down death on my little notepad here because I've tracked it throughout this whole, it's been a big theme for me over the years. It's come up deep in ceremony. It's come just in my observation and analysis of the world and then being in the medical system. We're talking about these feelings of like clenching and anxiety and yada, these blocks.
Yeah.
And I've come to consider them, this is a little bit of play, so just play with me, is I frame them as very, they can be individual psychological blocks towards something, but I've also seen them be very natural. They're almost like the responses, the psychological ego responses to impending death.
Mm-hmm.
When death is approaching, the anxiety percolates, all the stuff starts to go as we get more and more confronted with the reality of death.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, it seems like there is to let something die, for death to be okay.
Yeah.
There's a possibility of to accept it means then you are burdened with the task of like full creation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's the daunting part almost, just as much as the, okay, my idea of death, but oh, whoa, part of what I'm so afraid of is the birthing and this something that I can't name, that I can't describe. I don't know how to write it down. It's not logical to me, but it's this great yearning for something new to be birthed and created into the world.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you speaking that it's not actually that we are afraid of the dying, it's that we're afraid of the responsibility that comes on the other side of death when choice re-enters the picture, right? And so in some ways, like, I don't mean this totally, but death is the easy part. It's like go lay down in the riverbed and be washed over with the unity of life and go back to your creator. Like, damn, man. Like I just have this feeling of laying in the river and all of the weight and burden that I hold and all the tension in my body just melting. Like, okay, it's time to go, and I'm held. I'm guided in that. There's a force guiding the way. Like, there's a release in that like kind of feels exhilarating to me with how much I feel in my life that I'm holding it together, right? And then you get to the other side of that, which what you're speaking of is like, well, we're not just dying and going back to wherever we go when we die. We're not going back to our creator because we're dying while we're still living, and then we're having to live the rest of our lives after that death. The task of dying and then showing up and standing on the edge of a meadow and saying, I can do anything. What is it that I'm gonna bring forth? Like, that's a huge responsibility. That's a huge responsibility. And the thing is, nobody's gonna do it for you. There's not just like, okay, I can just like let myself go, and I'm letting go of all of my weight. I'm letting go of my life, and I'm falling down into the river to die. There's a lot of, you're turning potential energy into kinetic energy. And like, whoa, that's like, I think one of the hardest things about being human, turning potential into kinetic, you know? And when you're standing on the edge of the meadow after the death and the rebirth and anything can happen, you're tasked with this responsibility to create something worthy. And you're going to have to create it. You're going to have to do the work to bring it forth. And, and so I really appreciate that like story that you frame, that maybe it's the anxiety isn't actually protecting the death, or it's also protecting what we know comes after the death, where suddenly we have a lot of choice and we're responsible for those choices and we're responsible for the consequences of those choices.
Yeah. Well put, well framed.
Yeah.
Being an
Yeah.
artist is scary. It's like the dilemma. It's the dilemma of the of God sees Dharma art.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling really worked, and I'm sure like John will link to Eric's stuff in the show notes here because we're
Yeah.
both really big fans of Eric. I'll send this to Eric. Something I'm really getting this download that he holds is like, look, if you want to be a part of the Renaissance, you have to be skillful in getting your art into the marketplace. Those aren't his words, but that's the meaning I make, right? And it's hit this, I feel like I've been in this cultivation of my art probably since I left DayMaker the past 5 years. And some of it was music and poetry, but then I've started to see Heart of Men in my writing and my space holding as my art, right? And there's a story that I want to tell of like, well, I just make my art and the world should just love it. You know, the world should just love it. Like good art should just make it out there in the ways that good art should go. And what Eric is like kind of imploring is, you are not contributing to the Renaissance. You are not contributing to um, this new world that you speak of, you know, in the podcast, if you're not able to skillfully bring your art forth to meet the times that we're in, right? To meet the times that we're in. And so for like a while, my focus in Heart of Men was like, how do I get masterful in my facilitation? How do I hone my leadership skills? How do I like hold really deep, potent, transformational space that's exactly what that man needs at that moment in time? And I was like, if I just do that, everything else takes care of itself. And what I'm seeing right now, I'm seeing where Heart of Men wants to go, just given the momentum. And I'm like, it's only going to get there if I'm actually really skilled at running a business. If I'm really skilled at telling our story, if I'm really skilled of like meeting people where they are when they come stand on the threshold of wanting to enter our Heart of Men space and knowing how to communicate with them and invite them in. And it's hard, man. It's like, it's not the fun stuff in the same way that like creating curriculum is, or being inside of one of our in-person spaces is. But I'm finding a lot with Eric's help that it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding to know, to develop the art of being able to bring my art into the world in a way that meets the world where it is. Um, and it takes a lot of discipline for all of us. It takes a lot of focus, but I think it's like the job of the revolutionary, if you came at this time with a gift to give, to be able to meet the world where it is and create that reality. Another way of saying that in your metaphor is if you're standing on the side of the meadow and you're like, guys, look, I just died and I'm reborn and I have this gym and it could save our world. Like, it's not the times of Jesus anymore. Like, you're not gonna just holding that gym, 30 people and then 100 and 1,000 aren't just gonna congregate around you. You're gonna have to weave your way through the meadow, sharing the preciousness of what you've cultivated, inviting people into relationship with that gym, and then they may follow right along their path. Um, and that's really brave work, dude. It's really brave work to like to walk into the meadow, walk into the marketplace, beholding and holding that which we hold most precious, where we can face rejection, where we can get hurt, whatever happens when we take action. Like, that's the hard work of these times. But I don't think our art means that much if we don't find a way for it to come into the world.
Doesn't feel like we have a whole bunch of better options. Our hands are kind of forced in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that. A line I speak to a lot is from Jesus in the Gnostic Gospels. And it's, if you bring forth that which is within you, it will save you. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, it will kill you. Right. And I feel like he kind of gave that teaching for this. I mean, I'm sure it's always been relevant, but for this time on earth, that's like, you don't have a choice. If you do not bring forth that gem, you will die of disease. You will wither internally. You will find yourself in psychosis, whatever it is. Like, you have to bring forth that gem. Yeah, that it's like, there isn't another choice. Yeah.
I don't know if we'll spend the next 15 or 20 minutes talking about this topic, or we can put it down if depending on how it lands. I'm curious to pick your brain about the topic of male trauma,
Mm.
like childhood trauma for men, and how it shows up in space and how you've learned to navigate it. I'll contextualize it with saying that it has largely been a lot of my journey in the last number of years has been this question of what are these really old young traumas that many men are shaped by and deeply affected by in their childhood, in their, like, as little babies, as small kids. How does it show up in group, in relationship? For me, it's been a lot of exploring, asking different sacred medicines to bring me into all of those places. And boy, I have been brought into them, and they are gnarly,
Yeah.
really gnarly. And they have
Very-
consistently blown my mind about
Yeah.
the depth of and influence that
Yes.
early developmental trauma has on us. And um, it's just really rocked my world. So part of this show and podcast intention is bringing that into giving that some room to breathe in life a little bit here.
Yeah.
And so many people have their own unique perspectives and experiences with it, either in their own life or in supporting others. And just, I'm curious if you have anything you want to riff on there.
Yeah. Before you even asked the question, like before you even said anything, but you were transitioning, circumcision just like popped into my field of awareness, right? And I want to be really clear and preface anything I'm going to say. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a trauma-informed practitioner by the traditional lens. I have no accreditation in holding therapeutic space. And so these are my opinions, right, and my perspectives. And I believe they can come from a source of truth even deeper than those that are institutionalized. And I want to give that forewarning because there's people that might say something very different than me that have a lot of training, right, explicitly with trauma. I think if you wanted to fuck up a whole gender to then fuck up our world, a really brilliant strategy would be to cut that being's creative seat of their power and do physical harm when they were under 7 days old. I think it's a brilliant strategy if you wanted to corrupt the fabric of being human. And let's start with that, right? Like, I don't know how many, I think the numbers in our generation were like 90% of us were circumcised, and now it's lower, thank the gods, but it was like 90% of us. So, like our phallus, this place, it's our physical expression of creativity. We have so much creative energy in terms of our vision and what we can do with our hands, but it's the only place that we can actually beget more human life, right? It's a seat of power in this way. And from the very beginning, we model for the nervous system that you're not in control of how this is used or how you use this, right? You will receive pain in this place and you will probably perpetuate pain from this place. So like, let's just start there. And I haven't, it's been in my field for a while. You could say I have not healed yet from whatever circumcision happened to me. I digitized some home videos. There's 4 of us siblings in my family and my parents. And I digitized some home videos for us, actually for a documentary that's coming out about Heart of Men. We needed some kid footage. And I was watching mine, and like the day after I'm born, there's the rabbi in there blessing my circumcision. And the second I saw that, like my whole body froze, and I was like, I do not have the space right now to be with that. Our son was about to be born. I haven't gone back to it yet because I know like I need some time with that, right? Like what the rabbi is fucking sitting there blessing as like my penis is bleeding, right? Out of some like act of God, right? Like that's pretty fucked, So that's there. And then, even before that, we could go to birth. It was just like we were like really fortunate that our son got to be born at home, and my wife's a home birth midwife. And so there's a lot of stories I catch, and gets pretty bad in the hospital for most babies born in the hospital, right? And you know that. And so like there's just all these interruptions from the blueprint of a healthy culture from the very, very beginning. And then we come into parents who don't have what they need to be good parents, right? And they're probably want to do their best, but their shit isn't resolved. They're not getting the support they need. There's all this pressure to pay the mortgage and take care of 6 other kids and do all of the things they have to do. So they don't have what they need. There's no way they can give us what we need, right? And just from the very beginning, it's just like rupture, 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 rupture. Most of our parents didn't have the skills for repair. And so you could paint a really bad picture and like, well, it's bad. It's bad from the very beginning. And I think you're right that's shaping probably 95% of our adult experience is what happened to us. I would probably argue pre-verbal, but maybe you could say it before 3 years old. Yeah. And you might have some stats on this. I'm just like riffing off what I think. So there's a wage on that as I like started to wrestle with what my childhood was in my 20s. And I was like, I got to heal all this. I got to heal all this. I got to heal all this. Like, holy goodness. And I got to have these hard conversations with my parents. And I need to do this like work around what happened in the womb and the work that happened around birth. And I'm not saying that there's not fruits to that. And I've done some of that. Where I stand in this moment in time is that I think when we move towards that call of our soul, it necessitates that we bring along and heal that which has been left behind. And so for me, I think you could look backwards and you could spin and spin and spin, and you could spend a lot of time there in the past, right? And I think there's a way that if we move forward to that greater call of our life, what actually needs healing and integration is just inevitably going to arise, right? And so like, is it shaping us? It's shaping us massively. And I believe in like a greater intelligence of life that allows a reality where we don't have to heal things so linearly or logically or exactly. Like, oh, okay, that was that thing that happened at 6 months, and that was that thing at 8 months, and then my grandma died at 1 year, and then my parents got divorced. My parents did not, but in this example, at 2 years, and then we moved at 3, and my dad started drinking at 4. Like, it's maybe that we don't have to go back through the lens of the mind and touch each of those, but that when an authentic longing arises in us, we just get to meet it. And I hear you saying that with the medicine. That, maybe you go with the medicine and you're like, holy shit, I am so in touch with 2-year-old John right now. I'm so in touch with 2-year-old John. Medicine help me at 2-year-old John. And so that becomes the matter to work with in that moment. It feels a little bit different than like trying really hard to heal what happened to us. Trying really hard to heal what happened to us. And that's just not how I hold my own life right now. Like I'm in a really action oriented, like answering the call of my soul right now. And I find like every morning at my altar when I sit down for my morning practice, the little boy in me is needing something. He's fucking scared as shit right now, right? I'm like stepping into greater service. I'm stepping into greater power. I'm stepping into the ability to be like thrown arrows at more so. And he's scared. And what I try to do is just each morning, like make some contact, like it's not perfect with him, but I can't wait to do the thing I came here to do until it's totally resolved for this kid who had a really fucking hard time as a deeply sensitive, like almost borderline autistic kid living in this world. Like it's been the next 80 years just tending that. And so there's this balance for me in, answering the call of our soul and maybe trusting that there's some brilliant overlap between our spirit, our soul, and our human body. And that when we answer the call of one, it tends the others in the ways that they're needing to be tended. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I
What does that bring up for you?
It brings up a lot, multiple edges and threads. One being that it strikes me that probably is the case that the traumatic imprints, whatever the effects are, they often are, they block us from, somatically and otherwise, from that expanded process, from going into, wow, I'm gonna shoot for greatness. I'm gonna become exposed. I'm gonna like take brave action, right? It can be like fear blocks and otherwise to that process. And then I also just sit a bit in the mystery and the severity of the levels of trauma that people have experienced. I mean, there's a lot of things that I do not resonate with, feel aligned with, or integrity with within the medical like practice and framework in which it's practiced in, American standardized medicine at this point. It can like hardly be called medicine, but so much I have worked with. I just kind of got blown away with people's life histories and stories and the stuff that they've been through, and especially in Baltimore City, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gnarly here, and that
Yeah.
goes back generations and generations, and the trauma is not just of like of us in this life either. It goes deeper and intergenerationally, and so I struggle at times with, yeah, there's various messaging out there of like, wow, yeah, you need, spend your time with the trauma, don't get lost in it, move forward. And then I've also met a lot of people, including myself, along the way where, they might develop like really severe illnesses and like complex psychosomatic
Yeah.
diseases and illness that take them out. And so much of the there's been developments even in with from Western doctors in mind body medicine of like, hey, here's how you can kind of like work and like move beyond
Yeah.
these autoimmune symptoms or these pain symptoms that plague you. You just like you recognize and can grapple with some of the trauma. And then I've just found myself over and over in the years of being on, um, being like the last reserve for many people who have come and they've like, I did all of the things.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm like getting sad as I talk about it because I'm both myself one of those people, but I've also been with a lot of folks who've been there and they're like, I've done the fucking thing. I've done all of the treatments. I've like tried all the drugs. I've like done all that stuff. And they often come in to plant medicine spaces. They come in for psychedelic like healing because they're like, whatever is here, it is, I can't access it. I can't work with it. And, whether that's folks with when I started working with a veteran organization, the first guy that
Yeah.
one of the first people that reached out to me was somebody who had recently went and done a Bufo or 5-MeO like treatment process. He's like, I
Yeah.
killed thousands of people. Air Force gunner. I've killed thousands of people. And, you know, w- how else are you gonna get that out of the soul? What
Yeah.
else is gonna touch that? And so, um, what sets up a person to find themselves in a situation like that, and what can heal that? It's really tough. I like to think there's a lot of things, and then and then in my own experience, I found myself there of like, I've I'm a smart fucking person. I'm
Yeah.
like way overly educated.
Yeah.
I know all the techniques and know all that
Right.
stuff, and then still have found myself sitting in ceremony before medicine, being like, take me there. And when I end
Yeah.
up there, I'm like, well, don't know what to do with that. Those are places that are really, really deep and complex. And so, I think
Yeah.
I wonder if I brought up the question more to even just share a little bit about my thoughts on that or experience with it. But it's this paradox, right? Because one of the most difficult truths often, even in and going into very deep processes with the energetic, somatic, psychological, unconscious material is that like it didn't necessarily fix it. Like the thing didn't go away. Like, dealt with a lot of like illness type symptoms over the years and it doesn't go away. Even
Yeah.
even through massive, massive
Yeah.
cathartic release and all forms of um different healing processes and some that are just like very deeply shamanic and I don't even know if I can get into them here. I won't. But in that place it's both humbled me but put me at quite the paradox of like, wow, I have to honor the depth of that
Mm.
and the reality that I
Yeah.
find myself 7-8 years into an extended healing process of what I can only call like trauma in
Yeah.
some ways, very very odd and mysterious and unexplained. And I also have to hold the not getting lost in it. And I have to
Yeah.
hold that action which you talk about of stepping
Yeah.
into our lives and how do we begin to move forward and even somewhat of a level of acceptance of I might just have to move forward with it, with whatever
Yes.
lingers
Yeah.
and pray and hope and go on and and that there is not that there is like, oh, there's more that I need to track and heal all of these like time frames and lines because I've left those behind, but it's more that often if I don't know, it feels like if the body and mind have some of those things and they're like, we need out.
Yeah.
It's gonna take
Yeah.
however long it's gonna be take.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth in what you said through my perception. And I think the core of it is like maybe the sickness never goes away. Right. Maybe the thing always haunts us in some form and we become better stewards of that energy and we trust it more and we know how to utilize it. And I'm also aware that, like I'm speaking to one energy and I'm like, go, like creation brings miracles. Go create the thing you need to create and you will heal. That is not the universal truth. That's what I can authentically say. And so I draw forward the souls who are ready for that level of healing, right? That's not universal. There's somebody else who actually needs to do 4 years of MDMA therapy And the healing is that for them. There's other people that need to go down to the jungle. There's other people that actually need 20 years of cognitive behavioral therapy. There's other people that they go on a 10-day vision quest, and they like, there's so many different routes through, and we just have to trust the branch of the universal tree that we're called to climb. The risk is in continuing to try to fix because you cannot yet love and accept what is. And so if that is what's driving the desire to heal, of like, once I heal, I will be okay. I can love what's here. You're going to spend your whole life healing, right? Because that voice in the subconscious, it's strong. And so is there a way to be beholding ourselves from a place of gentleness and love and compassion, and then be like, it is time to move towards this shit that happened. It is time to move towards. I think, John, and again, I'm not saying that this is universal, but what I find is that if you are awake to life, life brings you everything you need for your own healing if you will meet it bravely. And I watched that when our son was born, and in the month or two after, so much shit was coming up for me around my dad. And we live on the same land as my parents. And so they're 30 yards away. We see them daily. I love my parents. They did a lot right. They did a lot wrong. Like, we have a good relationship. Not everything is healed and resolved. And so much anger and rage came up at my dad in those 6 weeks. And he wasn't even, my wife was like very much in her postpartum nest. And so he wasn't even seeing us very much at all. It wasn't like stuff that was happening. And I was like, oh, whoa, what in the world was my dad going through when he had a son for the first 6 weeks? Like, what was the imprint I was picking up on him? And like, whoa, it was this, right? And now with my holding my son, it's coming through me because it wasn't resolved. And I was like, okay, I get to be with this now. I have to be with this now, or I can't father this boy who's this like shining soul who came here with gifts to give. And I'm trying to corrupt him the least I can, right? And so like life brought that. And like, could I have been in some healing container that tried to work on my father wounds? And I've done a lot of work around my dad, but like, could I have done something before he was born? Maybe, but I didn't need to. Like, he came and it was a call way greater than myself to heal. It was a call way greater because I'm looking at him and I'm holding him, I'm looking in his eyes, and I'm like, wow, you're actually uncorrupted at this point, coming in as a soul. And like, some hard shit's going to happen because life is hard, but like, God, can I do as little as possible that harms your soul's blueprint? And that was the motivation to be like, oh shit, like, I got to heal this stuff. And so I believe that life brings us the perfect circumstances for the healing that we need. And also, there's a mystery, right? There's just such a mystery. Like, I used to, when we were facilitating Hard to Bend at the beginning of us holding these spaces, like, I thought I needed to be a really good therapist in the space. Like, okay, if I have all these different frames for what's happening in our psychology, and I can guide people through different processes, like, I'm going to be really good, And I did that, and I was good at it. And then I realized, like, wait, somebody comes into the circle. We've set the space. The brotherhood is there. Something comes up. I don't need to guide them through a process. Like, just them presencing this in a space of co-regulation and relationship with some attention to the sacred, and then having whatever happens after that, like, that's the fucking healing. And I've seen people kick some crazy ass addictions where they had gone to like treatment centers to kick and they couldn't kick inside this space. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why. But there's a mystery that's willing to meet us when we are willing to step forward and say, like, I need help. And if there's an authentic willingness for like, I need help, it's just going to happen. And as Heart of Men has grown, I've begun to see, like, I'm a masterful facilitator. I'm becoming a masterful facilitator. I will own that. And what comes from the other guys who have no training, who a lot of times are like emotionally still learning to be attuned, right? What comes from them in service to somebody else's healing, I mean, it brings me to tears often. I'm like, this is gold. We could have never orchestrated this moment, right? Or getting to witness it in another man in the way that touches ourselves. So I also just trust the mystery. And for all the forces of, maybe you could say, evil that are conspiring for like our demise or our confusion, I think there's equal and opposite forces that are driving us towards the good, the beautiful, and the true. And they're working day in and day out for us to become who we were on this earth to be. And they're available and they find their way in, whether it's through the ayahuasca, or it's through the talk therapy, or it's through the men's circle, or it's through the vision quest, or it's through that stranger you sit by on the bus. They find their way in. And our only job is to allow it and to be willing to drop the story of what we've known, to be like, hey, that pattern's coming up again that I know fucking came from my dad. And I can't will my way out of this, but I can bring my willingness to just say, I see it. Let there be something else. And that to me is like maybe more of a miracle consciousness. And that to me is what I think Jesus was teaching in some way, of like, there is the capacity in any moment to align with the blueprint you came to this earth with and allow that through. Um, and I don't think we just get that by closing our eyes and snapping our finger and be like, God, make me who I am. God, make me who I am. Although some people do that, right? Like I think about the revivals in my like mom's people are native folk from Eastern North Carolina, and like these Southern Baptist revivals. All my grandfathers, great grandfathers, they were the preachers. People would go on Saturday nights, and I mean, it's like seeming like some crazy healing is happening, but it's not like an abdication. It's actually, the miracle to me is self-responsibility. It's being like, whoa, I was just in so much closure and burden and projection with my wife because I'm overwhelmed and I'm scared. I don't want this. That's the miracle. And then something gets to come in to help us, right? It's just like, are we actually willing to meet it? Are we actually willing to meet it? Are we willing to make the choices to put ourselves around other people, put ourselves in spaces that actually will necessitate and make inevitable that healing? And I see that with Heart of Men. I think the biggest no we get from guys is actually that they know the depth of which they're going to traverse, and something in them is like, fuck no to that. I know that if I come in here, I will change. I will heal that thing that I've known my entire life. And something in me would rather stay miserable in the known than move into the unknown. And that's where I think we have free will. And that's where the choice of our soul comes in. Of, are we actually going to move towards this, or are we going to hide and walk away?
Our hearts are on the line, and the health of our hearts are on the line, whether or not they get cancer.
I mean, cancer-free hearts, right? But isn't this is it the leading cause of death, or the second leading cause of death for men is heart disease?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like,
Cardiovascular disease always been up there.
yeah. I mean, I bet you it wasn't 1,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, but in modernity, yeah.
Always in the last few decades, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm more hopeful than when we started this podcast, and I also the rhetorical question still stands.
Yeah.
But I had this image pop into my head as we were talking about all of the different ways in which healing can be accessed, and how trauma can be processed, how we can move on and be and grow into a greater acceptance. That I think that folks at Heart of Men and the people that are coming through there are growing into the, not every single person is going to become a healer of various sorts, but but there seems to be a current and an energy running through that, through Heart of Men, through what you've cultivated and offered there, that is lighting those souls on fire.
So,
And moving them forward, so that as we grow into tougher and tougher times, as we anticipate more and more difficult times, when more and more people are, who have lived with the burden of these traumas,
yeah.
of whatever has been stuck in them and their parents and their grandparents and all the way in their ancestry, who are currently living lives where things are starting to bubble up, and there has been denial, and there has been dissociation, and there has been a great repression.
Yeah.
And now today, May of 2026,
Yeah.
something happens. Something happens, and then their back goes out, their heart goes out, some things start to change and they become um, open and willing
Yes.
by some force that
Yeah.
a lot of the fruits of your labor and hopefully one day my labor and the labor of so many others saying, "Hey, we're ready, and
Mm.
we're willing to uh,
Mm.
excited to help and structure the growth process that
Mm.
comes from carrying so much
Mm.
and
Okay.
wanting to be lighter and to be free." And so
Good.
the that garden tending
Mm.
that garden tending that
Good.
you've been doing
Yeah.
since you moved to
Yeah.
the Appalachians is
Yeah.
it's you're in the harvest phase. The
Yeah.
seasons are moving along, and so I'm just I've loved, yeah, from afar at times and then closer at times, watching your journey blossom and all of these offerings like really bloom, and I can see in the eyes of all the people that you touch and that
Mm.
you connect with, and that heart of men is growing into whatever it will become is a
Yeah.
really beautiful, loving, and soul focus bounty.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you for your witness. Yeah. Thank you for being walking alongside, over these years. And um, I, I know that every time something was coming too strong, as you were sharing, that every time you have chosen to like meet the hard moment for something more truthful, it's like I'm seeing you like put these like coins in the piggy bank, right? And that is actually that field is what's going to allow you to be the healer that you are, right? Like all of those choices to move towards a hard moment, to integrate what was left behind. It's like building up this bank, right? You could put it building up this bounty. And that when it's time for you, and you're already doing it, but to step forward and be a bridge for those souls that came here because they knew Dr. John Clifton was going to be here. um, that's the energy that creates those pathways for those people to come. And so for those who have and know they have a call as a leader, a teacher, a healer, which in some ways we all are, but those who feel that there's maybe a little more magnitude to that, it's like we get there by continuing to do the work ourselves. We continue to meet the moments that feel challenging and trialing and find more life in them. And so when you talk about hope, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't even, do I have hope for a better world? Like, I don't know if I have hope for a better world, but I do know that I'm much more alive than I was 10 years ago. I'm much more alive than I was last year, right? Like, that's what I can tell you. That, like, as I meet life, as I find out who I am, as I welcome my desires, as I say yes, that I have more capacity for tenderness, for sensitivity, to see things as they are and let them touch me. I see the guys that go through our programs, they need like 9 months of what they deserve their whole life, and they get it for 9 months. And there's a totally different look in their eyes, right? And so, like, I do believe, like, we're like it's possible. We're heading there, and it's our choices, that will create that world or not. And I think ultimately we need like 10% of people to make those choices, to follow the call of their soul. And I think we're gonna get somewhere fucking beautiful. Um, and if not, like, I'd like to die trying because it's the only worthy way I know of spending my time. So thank you.
And thank you, my friend. Tell
So
me tell me and tell uh, the audience here a little bit about what's coming up for Heart of Men and
yeah,
for youth, the ways in which they can connect and uh,
yeah. I think this podcast is gonna be awesome, John. I think you're gonna end up really finding a niche and who you are and how you are. So I'm really proud of you for saying yes to it. It's gonna be awesome.
thank you.
I'll keep this brief. I'm on social, Heart of Men's on social. You can find that just with our name. We have True North Leadership coming up May 28th, 6 weeks, 25 guys. We're going to ask the question, what is it that's calling to me that I know I need to answer? And we're going to learn this masterful process to meet the resistance to why we haven't answered that call. We're going to begin answering that call together. And in the process of answering that call, we're going to anchor our true north, which becomes that guiding compass for our lives. So totally online. It's an awesome group of guys that has already felt the call to the program and said yes. And it's my prayer in this space that these 25 guys leave feeling closer to this call than they ever have been in their life, and with their deepest trust they've ever had in their own capacity for leadership on behalf of their deeper why. So if you're interested in that, hit our website. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll probably be in the closing days of enrollment, but there is time for you. Um, that's what I got. Heart of Men is fucking awesome. So like if you're listening and it's either you or a man in your life who's like, God, it is a well-held space of men chasing the real stuff, and we have a lot of fucking fun doing it. You're really welcome in this space. You're really welcome, and we want you. And your becoming in medicine is the greatest gift that you can give to the world.
Here, here. Well, we'll end it at
Here,
that. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Thomas. Till next time, my friend.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you.